All right. So tell us who you are.
Thel Robinson III, CEO of Halt, Volience.
So tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm a native of Washington, D.C. I've been here in Columbus since 2011, but previously I was here from 92 to 95.
So what brought you to Columbus?
D.C. was murder capital, 489 murders, and I had to get away from it because I didn't want to become a statistic.
Did you come with your family?
Yes, at that time I had two daughters. Yeah, I had two daughters.
So when you came to Columbus, what did you do?
I came here to go to DeVry College to study accounting.
So let's start from Columbus. You come to Columbus, you went to DeVry, and then how did you get involved with Halt?
Um, it was a lot of organizations that had good intents on serving the community, but they didn't know what they was doing and they didn't have a background. So when God called me to start Halt Violence, I was obedient to serve the community that needed a real agency that they can relate to.
And how did that come about? Do you partner with other organizations?
No. Well, now we do, but we want to make sure we are our own entity so we can avoid the pit stops of ulterior motive and hidden agendas because every nonprofit agency or program that's out here serving the community don't got the community best interest. So for the longest, we didn't partner with anyone, but right now we do have community partners such as the Star House, as well as Road to Success and Rama Christensen.
So was there a particular incident or just something in the community that you seen that you're like, I really should do something about this?
Well, in '96, I've seen a lot of stuff, but in '96, I witnessed a 15-year-old lose his life for nothing. So this is where the passion came with me to serve the youth. Um, because if he had the right guidance or if the right program was engaging with his parents, um, things probably would have turned out different.
So tell us a little bit about the organization, some of the programs.
So our primary service is our violence intervention program, which is street mentors being in the community, engaging with the shooters, drug dealers, gang members, whoever's doing illegal activities, and relating to their needs and giving them analogies that they can feel and discuss nonviolent alternatives when it comes to potential beef that they got out there or do have out there. And so when we know who is involved, we get them together to squash this beef by discussing nonviolent alternatives, which work because some of this stuff is communication, bad choices, and off of anger and emotions off of that moment. But when you got real people that is relatable to them to discuss what's going on in a safe area without the police involvement, then we can get to the root of the cause to squash this beef.
So let's go now to some of your programs.
So the other program we have is workforce development, which we have employers that's willing to hire our participants after we do the mock interviewing and provide them interview clothes and discuss work ethics. So regardless of their felony backgrounds, we know who will hire them according to their felonies and how long ago their felonies are. Recently, we just partnered with UPS, so all of our participants are now hired on making $17 an hour in OBEX. Then we have trauma counseling, which is consists of many layers. You got PTSD, anger management, unprocessed grief, to deal with some of this trauma out in the community, especially when individuals losing family members and friends to gun violence. And then mentorship, which is broad, because depending on what the client needs, we tailor our mentorship around their circumstances.
Can we talk about mental issues? What do you see in the community? Is that part of the rise in violence?
Yes, it's layers. There's no specific topic that is the key that's driving violence. But when you have a community that is behaving a certain way, and everybody in that community is behaving a certain way, it's normal. So when you have someone that is normal that come into the community and seeing the dysfunction in the community, is our responsibility to pull a coat on it. And so that's what we do in a way that's not offensive to the community, because nobody wants to be labeled crazy or, the terms that they use to deter a person from seeking help and treatment. But some of this stuff is deep, especially when it comes to bipolar behavior, PTSD. So when individuals feel that symptom coming on, they're going to react. So when people labeling this individual as real, but it's his bipolar that's kicking in, or her bipolar that's kicking in, that allowed them to be, violent at the split of air.
So can I ask you another question? When you're dealing with violence, do you start with, are you guys working with just younger, like kids, elementary, middle school, high school, or does it go all the way to adults?
Teens, young adults, and adults. So 11 years old and up. Last year, Columbus had 10 youth that committed murder, and right now, you can't quote me on this, but it's pretty close, but it's like 15 youth that committed murder right now this year, and we still got 3 months to go. So when you got programs and funders that are in specific areas of funding 16 to 24, so if we got a 14-year-old that need our services, or we got a 30-year-old or 35-year-old that need our services, then if we was to get funded for that age group, we will be missing out on the other ages that are committing violence as well. So you have to be broad in serving the community and don't put, numbers on it, because if you know the history of this year and last year, the age is, 14, 13 at the least, but 14. In the month of June alone, you had a 14 stab another 14-year-old. You had 15 and 16-year-old commit murders, allegedly, and then, 17-year-olds. So, like, in a month alone, it was 6 allegedly murders done by youth. You know what I mean? So, like, to be in a particular age bracket and say you only serve this age group to this age group, when you got youth, young adults, and adults, you're going to miss the population to trying to squash some of this beef.
Another question I wanted to ask you, you could take your time thinking about it. How much do you, in your line of work, have you noticed that a lot of kids are acting out in violence? If it's from, do you see it more from like family trauma? Like this is something that was happening from their youth and when they're younger, and they seen trauma within the family? Or do you think it's really what the media is trying to tell us? This is all gang related.
It's not gang related. I think it was last year in the Columbus Dispatch or the news, one of them, it was only 33% gang related when it came to the murders. So if it was only 33% when that particular article came out, you still got roughly 2/3 left of that population that is not gang related. So when people are blaming everything on gangs when it comes to the murders, that's because of their hidden agenda or ulterior motives for their funding purposes. It was, as a matter of fact, it was an article August 2021 that came out that the Columbus Police Department put out as far as a report that they wanted on Columbus, and the final report was that Columbus don't have a gang problem, they got a group problem. And the professor pointed out that some of these beef wasn't gang related. There was jealousy, females, robbery, money disputes, and only some of it was gang related, but they put everything on gangs because of their hidden agenda.
Okay, so let's talk about you have a program when you have young people go out and talk to other young people. Can we talk a little bit deeper into that, and then we'll introduce your other team members?
Yes. So in order for this beef to be squashed and relationships to be built and mentorship to be had, these teens, young adults, and even adults for that matter, need to engage with someone that they're relatable to. So we got street mentors that are not afraid of the community. You know, they're not going into the community with no gun, no vest. They're going on the community off the strength that they mean good to the people that they're serving. So when these street mentors engage with a male or female, they're just meeting them where they at. They're not judging them. They're not judging them because they might be high off some weed or some pills or got a gun on them. Nothing. They're there to form a relationship and to see how that they can help them. And so when you got individuals that's coming into the community, that's meeting them where they at, and not being judgmental and just being real and open and discussing things and being that ear, that's how you build a bond with the community to find out what they need and meet their need.
So, what's your goals? Where you want to see happen in the community?
I mean, it's plenty of goals, but just for the teens and young adults and adults to realize in that moment of anger or in that moment of emotions, they don't have to squeeze that trigger. I want them to realize that they are more than what society portrays them to be. You know, every black person in the community, whether it's male or female, is not a shooter, is not a gang member, is not a hoe, is not a bitch. You know, they are successful black men and women. You know, this is why when people see us in the community, they fear us because all they see is negativity when it comes to what they show on the news. They don't want to show positivity on the news because then they will be empowering the black community, but instead they just want to install that fear when it comes to people that look like me and others.
And if you could give any advice to some parent that is probably struggling with a youth or even someone in their family as an adult that is engaging in these behaviors, what do you want to say to them?
You don't have to travel this path alone. You can speak with an agency that is all about confidentiality. We will have your back so that you can talk openly with us to discuss the things that's going on in your household so we can best advise you to get on that normal path. But you have to be willing to commit through the process, regardless of how vulnerable it is, and you got to be transparent. But it can be done, but you have to be willing, especially when it comes to the youth that's under 18, because we can engage with the youth at the library and recreation centers and in the street all day long, but if we don't have the consent, we can't take it that extra step further to do an action plan, do an assessment, and begin that help and treatment. You know, for 18 and up, you know, they can come in and get the help, but for the youth, we need the parent consent.
One more question. I'm going to circle back. Um, I want to go back to some issues that we have in our communities that maybe the Black community just simply won't address. And a lot of I want to know if this is a myth or is it actually true. The lack of fathers in the family. How do you see that and play a role in some of the violence we're occurring?
That's a layer, and that's a big layer. You got some 12 and 13-year-olds that are very angry to the point if they was to see their father, they would shoot him. And that's a shame. The father is the head of the household. But because fathers are taking that route of doing illegal activities and ending up 6 feet under or in prison, the woman is out here doing it on their own. And no matter how a woman provides for her sons, she can't replace that figure as a father. And there's no shame on a woman because a woman can't teach a young man to be a young man. And so the men have to get back into their rightful position to lead these households and love on their sons so that they won't be out here pushing that hate.
And I want to ask you, as far as spirituality and religion, do you think that we need more? I know that the church used to be part of the community where you could go and get help and you could seek resources. So, do you think the church has failed us in our community with our youth?
No. You have some sincere churches out here doing what they're supposed to do. The Temple of Faith has affected me, been there since I've been home 11 years from the feds. A New Birth is where God gave the assignment for Halt violence to begin with me. And then Raymond Christian Center, the leadership of Bishop Scales has supported us since 2016, as well as the wisdom and knowledge that I received to deal with the racism, enemies and just political stuff that don't want to see Halt violence thrive and impact the community when it comes to gun violence, mentorship, healing, as well as employment. You have to realize that individuals don't give a damn about people that look like me. They just want to see us as numbers. This is still modern day slavery going on. And if you don't got the eye to see it, you don't know what's going on. And, people got to wake up. People talk about the youth, but the youth are very internet savvy. If you want to know something, you can go to the internet. And so in 2022, we got to learn our history to know what's going on so we can know how to move forward. It's not about living in anger and resentment and not forgiving, but knowing what we up against so that we can prepare the next generation. But when we don't talk about it and we just continue to move forward in this kumbaya mentality, we're doing the community a disservice. But there's some churches that are out there that are sincere. But again, you can't put it all on the church because it starts at home. The church and programs and agencies can come aid these families that are in need, but you cannot put it all on the church. You can't put it all on these programs, mentors, and this, that, and the third. You can't do that.
And I want to ask you about the role of social media when relating to what you see through your organization. What role does that play?
I mean, social media is good and bad, just like guns are good and bad. So it's good and bad in everything. So it's all about what you use it for, So we use it for promotion. But then, when it comes to the youth and young adults and even adults in the community, they use it for their purposes, whether they smoking drugs on the internet, selling drugs on the internet, incriminating themselves. You know what I mean? So it's all on the intent of the purpose. But social media, it travels so fast. So when it comes to the good, it can be impactful for the good. But when it's being done for bad purposes, it's going to be impacted in a bad way.
You think media and television? I remember a time in my life, my generation, it was all about the video games. Oh, it's making all the kids crazy and violent because of video games. You think that's the same thing you see now when you look at media and social media?
So when it comes to social media, individuals that are looking at social media and they seeing violence, that's is what is being portrayed right now. So like when it comes to music, if you go into a church and you're going to hear the worship songs, you're going to hear songs that make you think about God and Yahshua. But then when you go into the community, when you hear these rappers, they just rapping about what they see in the community. When you got R&B, you listening to R&B, it's gonna make you think about love and being intimate. So people try to blame the music, but they just rapping about what's going on all over in the United States and the urban community. And so the reason why these rappers got a lot of followers and are successful is because they rapping about key stuff that's going on in the community that these youngins is relatable to. You know what I mean? So we can't blame the rappers for rapping about what they see and storytelling about people they know that people relating to all over the United States. They just let you, if a person want to know what's going on in the community, you go to the hottest rapper and listen to his lyrics. He gonna let you know what's going on. So instead of people being judgmental about the music, listen to the music so you can find out what's going on in the community so you can best advise about helping the community.
So tell us how we get in touch with your organization.
You can contact Lizzie Washington, and her phone number is 614-440-3430, and you can reach out to her to schedule an appointment. We're located at 923 East Broad Street, Lower Level, Columbus, Ohio, 43205.
Tell us about yourself.
My name is Lamar Morris, and I'm a street mentor for Halt, Violence, which is an organization to help teens, young adults, and adults find a nonviolent way to resolve conflicts.
So tell us what that looked like. Say, for instance, I'm in the midst of a fight. Tell us, what would you do?
Well, first of all, I would want to talk to the parties that are involved and basically find conflict resolution to the issues and, give my opinion on what should be done, what the end result may be, far as, someone may be killed or someone may go to prison or someone may go to jail, and just try to find a peaceful way to resolve the conflict.
And what are some of the conflicts you come across?
I mean, well, as far as in Columbus, Ohio, there's a lot of different beefs as far as neighborhoods, like, the South Linda area, East Haven, just, terrible neighborhoods. Well, I won't even say terrible, they just misdirected neighborhoods that need peace. And they just need people to talk to reach out to that's positive instead of all of the negative people that they can turn to when they are having issues with other groups.
So, is there certain techniques that you come into? Do you try to get their backstory? Do you try to come down to their level? What are some of the techniques that you use?
Well, just kind of being humble as possible and just finding a common ground as far as, I've been in the streets myself, so I know, a lot of men carry pride on their chest, and, you don't want to come aggressive or anything like that, and just come in a peaceful manner and, try to help them find a better way to resolve their conflict at that time that they may have.
Have you ever seen yourself in another kid?
Oh, I see myself in a lot of children, as far as, single parent homes and, looking to basically get money because there's not a lot at home and things like that. I just want to reach out to the youth because, I personally reached out to the wrong youth when I was growing up. So now, since I'm older and of age and I know better, I would like to help those youth, find a better way to spend their time and, stop the violence because there's a lot of violence out there right now.
So, from the time that you were younger to what you see today, what are some of the differences you see when it comes to violence in our community?
Well, like you mentioned earlier, everyone has guns now. It was not like that when we grew up, and it may just be, a slight disrespect from someone, and it can turn into someone shooting another person, and even just being cut off on the freeway. You don't know if that person may have a gun, and you don't know if, you put your middle finger up that they're going to pull over and shoot you. So it's a lot of big differences in the world today. And our organization is to try to help find peaceful solutions to these problems instead of using violence.
What are some of those solutions?
Well, a lot of the solutions is, thinking before we act and, basically using critical thinking skills and, just being more patient and speaking. Communication is the biggest thing because if we communicate through our words, you don't have to use violence to the next person. You can talk it out. And that's what we reach out to the community to tell them. You can talk it out. You can communicate with the next person. You don't have to use violence.
Do you think that's some kind of myth or stigma about you have to be a man or some kind of homie? I don't know what term they use anymore. I'm old, but is that some machismo thing that you see now, like young people, men or girls or boys, trying to prove themselves?
Well, now, my opinion about young people these days, they are very smart, articulate. They know the computer. They're very intelligent, and I think us as older people, we kind of don't see that in them, but they're very smart and just using their words correctly with each other and not just having the issues of the violence, bringing the guns into play. I think that'll help the community overall.
And my last question is, if you could give advice to someone that is in need of help, what advice would you give?
I would give them the advice to call Lizzie. Lizzie will help, and she will help with our organization. Halt Violence will show up for you. That's the advice I got.
So tell us about yourself.
My name is Lizzie Washington. I am Thel's assistant at Halt Violence. I moved to Columbus 16 years ago. I'm originally from Dayton. And yeah, I do all the scheduling.
Okay. So tell us the procedure. I call in, and what should I expect?
And so, you can call anytime, day or night. I always have my phone on me. And, I will answer, of course, introduce myself, and then get a little bit more about you and definitely your name and some of the programs that you're interested in, and then I will put that on Thel's calendar, and then you'll have your initial interview with him.
So, what are some of the calls that you receive?
All types of different calls. A lot with job opportunities. I've had a couple inquiries about mentorship, and but yeah, mostly it's about job. And I've had a couple phone calls where we couldn't really help, just because that wasn't our lane that we were in. So, I would either direct them to a women's shelter or something like that. So,
Oh, that's good to know.
yeah.
So, what type of jobs are people seeking?
All types of different jobs. We actually just got partnered with UPS, so really, really good job opportunity, and good pay and benefits. So yeah, but all different types.
So, let's talk about the opportunities for people that are trying to enter the job market.
Yeah, so we offer opportunity to everyone, even if you have a misdemeanor or a felony. We can definitely set you up and get you a job opportunity. Because a lot of times when, especially if people just get out of jail or prison, they have a hard time, coming back and to society and finding a job opportunity, and then it's basically just a cycle, and so they go back to the exact same thing that they were doing, or because they don't have that opportunity. So we are here for everyone regardless.
So, when you're talking do you hear more from parents or actual people in need?
Usually, recently it's mostly been people, in need, young adults, but I have had a couple parents reach out and, ask about the programs, and, one boy, he was 17, and she just wanted to make sure, that he's staying on the right path, and, and like I said, I just give them a little bit of breakdown, and then I'll schedule them, and then they'll have the interview, with the kids, they have to have the parents' consent. So, but 18 and over, yeah, they can just come in themselves.
And another question I want to ask: if someone wanted to volunteer or they wanted to work with your organization, how can they go about that?
They would just have to contact me, and then I could set up an interview with Thel. So, and then they would have their initial interview, come down to our building and, interview with him. So, and then they get started from there.
And how long you guys been open?
8 years.
8 years.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
So where did you start out?
Well, I started in August, actually. So, and a mutual friend of Thel's and I suggested it, and he was like, he's looking for an assistant, and I was like, I can do that. So then I had an interview, and he hired me right there that day. So yeah, I've been there ever since.
So how do you like working there?
I love it. I feel like, and everybody needs a job and needs, to make money, but it feels like I'm doing something, better. I'm bettering the community. I have a purpose, and that's it feels different. And it's rewarding. I really, really like it. So yeah, and Thel, he's super laid back. So, we don't have any problems. Like, he's a great guy to work for. So.
And if someone wants to look for, contact you for a job or even just resources, where can they go?
So you can contact me at 614-440-3430. Schedule an appointment. Also, our website is www.haltviolence.org. And so, I would need to set up an initial interview and to make sure that Thel is there, and then you would come down to the office, and that's 923 East Broad Street, Columbus, Ohio.
So can you tell us about yourself?
Yes, my name is Chanda Dunlap. I'm originally from Youngstown, Ohio. I'm a female street mentor for Halt Violence.
And what is a street mentor?
I work with the young ladies of the community. I empower and uplift and encourage the ladies to be the best version of themselves possible.
And what way do you do that?
Well, like Mr. Thel said previously, we create, each mentee would have their own needs that they would need to be met. So we would tailor the program to meet their specific needs.
And say for instance, I had a child that had that just needed a friend and someone to talk to.
Yes.
What
What's the question?
What services would you provide for that?
If you had a friend.
If I had a daughter
Yes. Mm-hmm.
that had issues at school, no
Okay.
friends, a little alone, if I called your services, would you be able to help?
Yes, of course. I would basically develop a career plan, what they plan to do as far as schooling, just the specific goals and what they want to, what goals they want met. I would develop a plan for them that would meet their needs specifically. So I would have to talk to the daughter and see exactly what she needs to work on. So it's not no specific plan that I can say unless I would meet that person.
So there's nothing like, oh, let's work on communication skills. Is there any skill sets that you normally use with?
Well, that's if that person needed communication skills, So it's kind of, you can't just say specifically what I would do unless I worked with that person. But that could be something that I would utilize if it was needed.
So, is there any other programs that you help with as far as a mentor?
No, I'm specifically a mentor for the young ladies. That's basically my lane. That's what I do.
And how long you been doing that?
I've been working for Halt Violence for a month now.
And what made you get involved?
I remember reading a specific quote years ago, be the person you needed when you were growing up. So like Lizzie said, it's rewarding. It's not work. I feel like I'm actually doing something for the community. Well, I actually am, but it gives you a great feeling. It is.
Is there a story you could tell us about maybe one or two people that impacted your life?
Well, growing up in Youngstown, Ohio, I've had some experiences, and so I remember a mentor I had, and she made a big impact in my life, and I still remember her. Being at 43, I still remember her to this day. So,
Is there a mentee that you could tell us about that impacted you?
Not at the moment, but I have great relationships with the young ladies I do talk to, but not at the moment.
Okay. No, I was just saying like an anecdote, like one kid came in and something happened and okay.
No.
And last but not least, if someone wanted to get in touch with your organization, where can they find you?
They can find me at cdunlap, that's DUNLAP, at haltviolence.org. That is my email address.
And one more question.
Yes.
Can you tell us who inspires you?
My kids. It inspires me. My kids. My major inspiration.
And if you had a chance to go speak to yourself at 16, what advice would you give yourself?
It's a lot of a lot of advice I would give myself, but the main thing is just remain positive, and everything will always work out in the end.
We're Halt Violence, you're watching BLEV TV.